Oh, and by the way, and I'll repeat this, feel free to put your questions, comments in the chat. We're going to be we're actually going to be doing healing, live healing on the spot. It's going to be in the context of a group, but we're going to be bringing it down, and I'm going to be very interested throughout to hear what you feel. If you feel nothing, that happens. If you feel an increase of some symptom, if you feel an insight, if you feel a shift in your body, Chaya will also guide this and let you know what you should be looking for. And so if you can report not only your questions, your comments, but whatever your experience is, and also whatever you'd like the healing to address, but also whatever your experience is. I think that's going to be really helpful. The more interactive, the better. So we do have this set up so that you only see me and Chaya right now, and there's a chat. It is possible to have everybody be seen, but it might be more distracting. So maybe we should, what do you think, Chaya?
It may be a little more distracting, right?
Okay, but we really want to hear from you. Okay, so let's just get started. Welcome everybody. This is a special healing class with Chaya Baker. You can check out her work at Chaya Baker, HayaBaker.com. I've known Chaya for now like 8 years, 9 years.
More than that. More than that.
More than that. Well, maybe I didn't know that I knew you before that, but we talked first, I think, when I was on my pilot trip in 2011. So,
oh, right. So that's
yeah. So anyway, we've worked together a lot in the past, and Chaya has been a member of the learning communities, Divine Pulse, and now this one for several years, and we do work together in other ways as well. So anyway, Chaya has the reason that I invited Chaya, besides all that, to do this particular call is because one of the things that she specializes in, and I don't know that she would put it this way, but I'm going to put it this way as from the client standpoint, from the consumer standpoint. It seems that Chaya specializes in helping people go into their deep traumas or any kind of traumas, whether they're from this life or sometimes it just happens that she and the client realize that there's a past life component, although she's told me she doesn't look for that specifically because most things we play out again in the life that we're living in. But to work with those in order to reveal the divine, let's say, gift or purpose, or even just to bring presence to those things. And what I have found is that I've had very deep inner realizations in the space that Chaya holds, which is a healing space, and that those realizations have shifted things for me on very deep levels. So this is a group call. The thing that I would like to have happen is that it would be very interactive, meaning that you share with us what's on your heart, what you want to have dealt with, and then we'll see where. Obviously, it's not going to be a half-hour healing session for every issue, but we'll see what comes up that we can work with, and then we're asking you to participate and to let us know how you're responding to what's being brought down. It's always a work in progress. It's always an exploration. But besides what I'd like to have happen here, which is real healing, real opening up of the channels, because once we get to the root of a trauma or a limiting belief or even a physical symptom, what happens is not just that it goes away or that it lightens, but it opens up a new realm of potential. It expands us. The things that are in our way are here to expand us. So I'd like people to understand also, I'd like the community to understand what this kind of healing is about, so that if you choose to avail of it at another time privately, you can do that. And I know there's a lot, there's so much around, so much that we don't understand. So I really want to bring this to more of your awareness and to make it comfortable and to help you understand it, as well as to help you experience it. Okay, so Chaya, long introduction, welcome. And feel free, guys, to start writing in anything that you feel you'd like Chaya to be addressing right now, so we'll be looking over the chat. Hi,
wonderful.
thank you for coming and doing this.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be with you and with the listeners. And I want to talk to the listeners because you are part of the process of redemption, each and every one of you, through your own personal work. And it becomes play over time. The work becomes play. But your own personal work play is what brings about the redemption. And every difficulty that you may be experiencing, is an invitation and a gateway into greater consciousness. And I'm sure you know that by now on some level. So I'm here to support you in that, not only for your own sake, but for the sake of the entire planet, the entire cosmos and beyond. You are here as a voice of consciousness on behalf of all of us. I consider each and every one of you to be, as we say in Hebrew, a shaliach tzibur. How would you translate that, Shifra?
An emissary of the collective, a representative of the collective, to act on behalf of the collective.
Exactly. You're each emissaries of the collective. We use that in the context of prayer, that there's one who's the emissary of the collective in prayer and says the prayers out loud for the community along with them, as they say them quietly or out loud with that emissary. So each and every one of you, in your prayers, in your desires, in your yearning, and in your inner work play, is a shaliach tzibur, is an emissary of prayer and of consciousness for all of us. So I'd like to open with a quote from Rabbi Cook. Just before I got online now, I asked God to help me find the quote that would be relevant. So this is going to be a surprise for me too. כל המתעורר בעולם, מדור דורים עד אחרית, everything that is aroused in the world from the beginning of all generations until the end of time, until we reach our goal, which is really not the end of time, it's just the beginning of another wonderful stage of consciousness.
End of the time of suffering.
And the end of time of suffering, yes. הכל הוא חלקי שאיפות וחלקי הכרות. They are all portions of yearnings, of longings, of שאיפה, shefachana, שאיפה.
I don't know the word. I don't know
Yearn. I would say it's a yearning, a desire, a deep soul desire. These are and parts of consciousness. These are each parts of consciousness and deep soul desires. שהולכות ומצטרפות ליצירה שלמה. They coalesce into one unified work of art. עד שלא באה הצורה המשלימה, until we see the wholeness of this tapestry. He doesn't use the word tapestry, but that's my take on it. So we see the wholeness of this work of art that we are all part of, this creation. המכנסת את הכל אל שלמותה, that brings it in all into oneness. It looks as though יש בהם טוב ורע, אמת ושקר, טומאה וטהרה, קודש וחול. It looks as if it has good and evil, truth and untruth, holiness and the opposite, and purity and impurity. אבל כשיופיע האור של התאחדות הכוללת, but when the light of the complete unification shines, שיהיה מבורר כל אלה השאיפות, all of these yearnings and all of these consciousnesses will be understood and rectified and clarified for what they really are. וחלקי ההיכרות, למה הן באות? And why all these parts of consciousness came to be would all be clarified and clear and understood. אז הכל יובהר לטוב. יוכר, הכל יוכר לטוב. Everything will be recognized as goodness. לאמת, לטהרה, for truth and purity. v'lekodesh, and holiness. Olam shekulo Shabbat, shekulo tov. A world that is all a Sabbath, a world of goodness that is entirely goodness. So I ask of you to look at every experience you have as part of this tapestry, as part of your reflecting, understanding, not just with your mind, but with your heart, how everything is part of a yearning towards goodness, purity, holiness, and rectification.
So what is there are a couple of things, thank you people for sharing what it is that you have on your heart, and we'll be looking at those very soon. But I think we have a few core themes. One of them is the relationship with God. A lot of people come into this kind of work, not just this community, but it's very common that many spiritual teachers won't even use the word God because it has so much baggage connected with it. Here we have brave people who are upfront about, about the embedded, there's generations of many generations, millennia of collective trauma connected with that word, even amongst, maybe especially amongst people who believe in God. It's easier if you don't, because you can reinterpret the word to mean whatever you want, make your own rules, which is probably why people say universe and so forth instead. So I'd like to just, if I may, everything that people are saying and what we're saying, let's just put it in the collective field so that we can work with it. There's another issue is of safety. I know that's been a huge issue for me. We have deep, and you and I have worked on this privately as well over the years, but I think we all are wired in, nobody who's here didn't die. None of us didn't die in previous lifetimes, and I think probably often in ways that weren't very pleasant. So those memories don't completely go away. So what do we do with the feeling of not being safe? And then another core theme that I saw several people mention is being able to be myself, finding the balance between what people want of me and being acceptable to other people and not triggering other people, and being able to stand up for what I believe myself, trusting my inner voice. And before we look at more, I'd just like to ask you to take a step back into the frame and explain why why do you think, in very simple, short terms words, why do you think we have these traumas that will ultimately turn to light? And why do you think that, how does the work? How is it that what you do helps bring these to the new form that Rav Kook is talking about?
Okay, well, I don't know how Rav Kook would have done it. I wish he were here for me to ask. But I've often asked that question of myself. How can this be done? Because I myself went through a lot of experiences that led me to feel unsafe for many years. And I needed to find safety within myself, within my relationship with God. And it wasn't simple, because I had a lot of reasons not to trust that relationship. I had a lot of reasons not to trust anything about life. Just for a little background, I grew up with a mother who was so loving and so caring, but very early in my life she became demented. I mean, very early in my life. So you can just imagine how little safety I experienced growing up. So it was quite a challenge. I was raising my mother from the age of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was raising my mother, who didn't understand me and couldn't listen to me anymore. By the time I was 8 years old, she could hardly listen to me or comprehend what I was saying, which was very frightening. So I had a journey in my life of trying to find safety. And that journey brought me face to face with some of my past life memories as well. It's not something I tell often, but it's true. And as you said, Shifra, we all have histories of traumas, one way or another. I faced mine.
One way and another.
And another, yeah. I faced mine, and what I found was that as I was willing to come face to face with everything that was in my way, everything that was coming between me and a sense of safety, that safety became apparent more and more and more until it was almost, or not almost, but definitely an experience of spiritual rejuvenation and even physical rejuvenation on so many levels. It was almost as if all the wounds of the past, and I'm talking about thousands of years, began to heal one by one and in mass within my experience from day to day, as I was willing to be present for whatever's coming up with a consciousness of love. That was my key. I had to recapture the maternal love that I knew as a very young child, before the age of 3 or 4. I had to recapture that and bring that to the presence for anything else that was in my life, that presented as barriers, as very deep barriers to safety. And as I faced each barrier within the embrace of a loving, caring God who empowers me to go through those barriers one by one, I found peace, and I found healing, and I found tools with which to help my mother of blessed memory. She was nearly comatose with Alzheimer's, and I started working with her with the tools that I was using to help myself. And it was basically prayer and presence. And as I did that, with presence for her emotions that weren't even articulated because she was nearly comatose, she started coming back to us when something that's not really seen. She started communicating again through nodding of the head, yes and no, intelligibly, and her raging infections went away. And the doctors took her off all of her medication, including her seizure medication. She was having multiple seizures several times a day, and after I started doing that, her seizures went down to 0, and the doctor said we can take her off that too.
Can you describe, okay, if you have more you want to say about that thought, you should do it. But I'd like to ask you to, after that, to describe what you actually experience, like from under the hood of your head, okay, and the rest of you while you're doing that, like while you were sitting with your mother, if you want to use that as an example, or any client.
Yes.
Maybe your mother's a good example.
When I was sitting with my mother, and although she could not articulate her emotions or anything about her experience, I could see that she was in very great distress emotionally and physically. And although she was not making eye contact with me, she was not opening her eyes, she was not moving a limb, I could see her distress. I could sense it. And you might say that I had a meta-communication with my mother since my childhood, where I could sense things even as she couldn't describe them or even express them in any way. So I could sense that, and I would just tune into that. I would also tune into her joy, because I knew that she had so much joy going through her whole life. I also tuned into her courage. She had so much courage facing her illness and trying to raise me the best she could, even though she could no longer remember what she said a minute ago. And I connected to everything. It's something like what you describe when you're teaching, Shifra, about hitbonenut. In Gate of Unity, hitbonenut is the teaching of just being present for everything we observe in this world, in our current state, with our left
gaze.
Like strong gaze with our left brain. It's really an acceptance of everything in all of its detail. So for me, accepting everything with all of its detail in my mother was seeing her condition in all its detail, whether it's physical, emotional, or whatever I could pick up on from her spirit. And just being there with that, in that deep gaze of knowing. And that takes us from hitbonenut more in the direction of da'at, of that deep knowing and just registering everything that we see without.
So first to observe and then to connect.
Exactly. Da'at is connection. So it's observation. And I invite you as I speak to observe yourself in wherever you are now in your body. And just notice. Notice the sounds around you. Notice your response to my voice. Notice how you feel inside. Notice any emotions that are coming up, and all this as an observation. This brings us to the observer effect in quantum physics. Just noticing has an influence on everything down to the smallest subatomic particles, according to physics. So as you're observing without judgment, and that's important, that's where a scientific method comes in, observing without judgment. Just, what do I see? What do I see? What do I sense? What do I feel? What am I experiencing? And even how am I breathing? Just notice.
And what do people do when they're experiencing something that causes a trigger, that causes them to be scared or sad, or let's say scared, since safety is a big.
Yeah, so if you're scared at this moment and you notice it, that's important. I'd like you to notice that with compassion. I'd like to notice that with compassion and love for yourself. And if you feel undeserving of compassion and love, and which is very common for all of us, we cycle through these feelings, several times a day. It's human. It's part of being human. And it's all about remembering the truth. So allow even that feeling of undeserving, which is part of our gateways into truth. Know the truth that you are deserving. And you're deserving, like the prophet Isaiah, prophet Ishayahu says, I'll read from it. You're deserving, just like a child deserves love of a mother. Let's find it.
While you're looking for the quote, Chai, I'm going to ask you, why is it, if we are all deserving, why is it that it's so deeply ingrained, even in some texts, that we're not deserving, that we're really, really not deserving, that we're, it's easy to feel that if, especially for a person who's committed, in terms of religion, it's really easy to feel that without perfection, there's no acceptance. The Torah is filled with, the Chumash is filled with stories. I'm just being really out here. Filled with stories about, how this mistake was made, or that complaint was made, or, whatever. I'm sure there's more depth to the story than just the surface, obviously. But why do you think that is embedded in the culture and in the tradition? And how do you feel comfortable to make the switch from that level of perception to to this new one, that you are already deserving? The question's tough, I know, but
it's a
we have
very
to deal
good
with these
question.
questions.
It's a question I asked myself when I encountered the same texts that you're talking about. And I soon realized that those texts are aimed at people who don't realize that they have to make some rectifications in their attitudes, or in their behavior, or in their false beliefs, that even the ones we're talking about. And I sometimes need that. I sometimes need a little admonishing, because I've been a little too tough on myself or others. And although I seem like a gentle person, just like everybody else, I sometimes get upset. Like, for example, somebody was was polluting an area, a public area, and this is a person that I could approach and tell them, you really have to clean up what you did here. It's really not right. And I really felt badly in confronting this person. And I tried for a long, and I didn't want to bring him to the attention of the authorities because I knew this was a person who, if everything was brought to his attention in the right way, he wouldn't have to suffer the shame of being reported to the municipality. But it was hard for me to do it in a way that wasn't judgmental. And until I could do it the right way, it was so hard for me. And I realized I had to get that right. I couldn't take a chance of hurting a person's feelings. And I had to admonish myself and say, "Hi, you really be careful. This is a person's emotions. This is a person's self-esteem that you could be hurting. You have to confront him, yes, but you have to find a way to do it in a way that doesn't hurt." So I think that these passages that are admonishing us and telling us that until we get it right, we didn't get it right, they're about noticing where we need rectification, noticing where we have to be careful, noticing where we can't run into this street without looking both ways. So that's how I understand it. And there may have been a lot that had needed to be brought to our attention in the past. But as the Lubavitcher Rebbe taught, all of these birurim, these clarifications have already been clarified. And so we're in a different place now where we need far less admonishment and far more reminder that
of who we really are.
Of who we really are, exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And so I'd like to quote from it. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know how deep we should go. I was just going to say, add one thing. Well, I want to go into active healing very, very soon.
Okay.
So I'm going to invite everybody. I want you to read that quote, but I'm going to invite everybody. If there's something you don't understand or you have an important question on what Chai's already said, feel free to put that in the chat, or anything else that you want to say. I think that there's a part of us also that there's a human behavior, there's a human pattern that, let's say somebody in a relationship has treated you unfairly or has been even abusive to you. Not necessarily, talking about a marriage. It could be a marriage, but it could be any kind of relationship. And you already know to expect that from someone. So from that person. So let's say that person decided that they're going to change. Something happened and they don't want to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But they can't, no matter how much they want to show you a new behavior, you're not going to perceive the new. You're only going to perceive the old and react to the old because you're used to it, because it's wired in. I've heard a term for it, an expression for it called already always listening, that we're completely always tuned into the way that we expect people to be, the way we expect ourselves to be, the way we expect God to be, which is us holding a certain, there's so many possibilities in life and in relationships and in ourselves. We hold ourselves and everyone else to a certain bandwidth that we are trained to expect. And not only we hold them to it, but we're reacting to it before it even comes out. So this is very understandable, but I just want to propose, I don't want to go too deeply into it unless we get there organically later. But I feel that we need to all consider that maybe we're holding God in an old pattern. And therefore we're responding like there's certain qualities, certain perspectives and behaviors that the Torah points out, halabavos, duties of the heart, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rav Kook, there I'm sure many others that talk about how even I believe it's the Mezritcher Magid, the successor of the Baal Shem Tov, who took a verse from Pirkei Avot, from Ethics of the Fathers, that says, Da malamalim mimach, or mimcha, know what's above you. It's good advice, know what's above you. But he explains it to mean know that what's above is from you. You can read the Hebrew that way.
Yeah.
The Zohar says that if you show a radiant countenance to heaven, heaven will shine back a radiant countenance to you. God is Havayat Silcha. God is my shadow. Like your shadow, you move, the shadow moves. So there's a certain part of our maturation process is to make a switch, which is not easy. It takes this kind of deep inner work of witnessing the traumas and bringing God in the traumas and working it out together in some way, how I see it, to be able to be open to a different kind of relationship, the different kind of relationship that actually generates different results cosmically. It's like, you know, you have a kid who's constantly breaking the dishes and throwing the milk, you know, the milk and the food on the floor. You're going to treat them differently than if they are, you know, coming down saying, can I help you clean up? It's not like you're the mean mother and so they have to be afraid of you. It's like, you know, everything's mirroring everything. I don't want to talk much more about it, but I hope that people understand this idea. I think that in these times there's a large piece where we get to choose, and the choosing, it's not just superficial. It's not just saying, oh, I want to choose a better relationship. No, it takes the work that now we're going to start doing. Yeah. Did you want to read the quote from Yeshayahu?
Yes, because it's about choosing that kind of relationship. Exactly. And we initiate our relationship with God. We initiate our relationship with God. God waits for our initiation. That's what this world is all about. Learning to initiate a relationship with ourselves and God and discovering who we really are and who we are in that relationship. That's what it's all about. So in Isaiah 49:11, no, wait a minute, Isaiah 49 verse 14. The English is, Zion says, the Lord has forsaken me. My Lord has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her baby or disown the child of her womb? Though she might forget, I never could forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are forever before me. ותאמר ציון, עזבני השם, ואדוני שכחני. התשכח אישה אולם מרחם בן בטנה, גם אלה תשכחנה, ואנוכי לא אשכחך. הן על כפיים חוקותייך, חומותייך נגדי תמיד. We are here to choose a healthy relationship with God in spite of the terror that we've been through since nearly the beginning of time.
So in a moment, I'd like to ask you to just start a session and let's go into the process of how you know, work with us as a group and as Shliach Tzibor, as the representative of the collective, to start to transmute that terror into a space of a new relationship, if that's okay. And I want to also, Shayna asks the question about, she says, do you listen to people's near-death experiences where they say, that they say we're in a place that still requires so much admonishment and so much more suffering to come? Yeah,
I do.
I want to say, I don't believe that. I've listened to a lot of near-death experiences and read about a lot of them. And I think that there's sometimes when they're not actually death, people get very, you know, high fever, they have a hallucination, or maybe they have a message. Maybe sometimes those people have been in a really hardened place. Like one extremely wonderful teacher freely tells a story about being like a complete thief and drug addict and manipulator and, you know, embezzler, and he had to go through that. But I met a woman who, most near-death experiences seem to be nothing like that, unless the person tries to commit suicide, in which case it seems that they are hard. But I met a woman personally who described, she wrote a book. Her name was Rachel Noam, a Jewish woman, Israeli. She was meeting her fiance who was coming out of the army or coming for a visit from the army, and she hadn't seen him for months. And she passed under a construction site, and a giant, I don't know if it's 2x4, giant piece of wood fell on her from a few stories. and basically she fell to the ground. Her soul flew out of her body. She was watching herself. She was watching the people around her be so worried. And she describes the light. And she describes it as like she was drawn into this huge light that she said was indescribable. It was full of love that was indescribable. She said that she wasn't religious at the time. Now she is. But she said that it was any love that she'd ever experienced or heard of, whether parent to child or friend to friend or lover to lover or any of it, paled in comparison. It included all and was so much more. It was indescribable. And she experienced a review of her life, and they asked her if she wanted to stay or go back. And she really wanted to stay. She wanted to go into the light. That's what people typically describe. But she realized it wasn't fair to her fiance, so she went back, and then she went through a whole process of, it was not easy, figuring out what to do with all of that. But yeah, but anyway, so I think these stories there, I've noticed that there are a lot of people in the Jewish religious world, at least, that describe very negative things. And I think it's the programming. I don't think it's actually that they've left their programming. I think that's what it is. And then the people who are listening have similar programming. So they're like, oh my gosh. Do you agree with that, Chaya? Do you have a different take?
I agree 100%. And I also agree with the background of my own near-death experience at the age of 7.
Oh, right. Do share that.
Yeah.
Can you share that? Yeah, briefly. I really want to go into the healing, but that sounds invaluable.
Okay. And that was one of the things I was recapturing throughout my life. Is number one, my mother's love, and of course my father's love. It was a tremendous love that I had with me throughout until he passed away when I was in my 20s. May a blessed memory. My parents were wonderful, but I had to recapture my mother's love. But even more so, I had to recapture the love of God that I experienced when I left my body at the age of 7 after a reaction to an inoculation. And I soared into a brilliant, soft, caressing light. And I can still feel it. And it shimmered. And it was so accepting. There was no judgment whatsoever. And within that light, when I looked down on my parents and on reality, it too was shimmering with love, unconditional love, and light. Everything was luminous. And so I woke, my mother told me that she did remember, she remembered some things short term. So as soon as I came back into my body, she said, Chaya, you were talking about the light when you opened your eyes. You were talking about the light. She remembered that for a moment, long enough to tell me about it. And ever since then, I felt like I'm part of this luminous, loving universe full of meaning and cherishing and unconditional positive regard for each and every one of us, no matter what we've done or haven't done. And that's something my mother used to tell me when I was very little, before she couldn't no longer communicate. She used to tell me, Chaya, no matter what you do, I love you. No matter what mistake you make, I love you. And I want you to know that you are a loving being. I love you and you are love. That's something my mother told me a lot. And that's what I experienced in this near-death experience. And I knew that I needed to teach that and be that. And I felt like God was with me every moment from there in this luminosity. And yet, when I went through trauma, I forgot that. I forgot even such a Sinai experience as that, which would explain how we forget every day anew that we are.
Right. So true.
So
But that's, you go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, but
so
that's
we're going to start with we'll start with the fear, the safety, and the fear. And then, and then we'll try to go to another theme. And people, I encourage you to really, really be in the healing. This is actually a healing. So just see what happens. What can come up during healing? Anything. Or whatever you want to say. Give people
anything.
A little what to expect.
But I just want people to ever be able to have a drinking break and maybe even a comfort break for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll come back together again before we begin.
Okay. Super. All right, so if anybody wants to get up, feel free. And if you have any questions for me if you want to. I'm going to try to batch these, but I think this is the core. I think if we start with the fear of things not working out, I'm wondering even if in terms of near-death experiences, I'm wondering if we get to choose which ones we want to connect to. Like, we're magnets for what we're looking for. But it doesn't, but we're also a work in progress. So don't be afraid of yourself. I think I've had most fears that there are. And we're here to work. Yom Lasosam, we're here to do the work. We're here to do the transformational work. And that's why there's so much turbulence now. But we can find pathways through that are just so much without being, nothing is completely predictable. I want to keep repeating that. I know this in very deep ways, but at the same time, we're moving between a world of turbulence and trauma and a lot of beauty and potential also, to a world with no trauma and just nothing but beauty and growth. And we'll have challenges, but challenges like to get from one level to the next, not challenges like pain and suffering and death. Those will be removed. So I do believe that the more, and I experience, although it's a subtle, it's like I keep saying it's work. I like the work. Kai has been saying the work can be play, and it can. It's like it can be work like a game. Can I get how, tennis, is it a work or a game? It's both. Is running, is exercise, work, or game? It could be both. All these things can be done with great joy and fun and excitement. But I believe, and I just want to keep stating this because it's a subtle paradox almost, that the more we can let things be what they are and not need them to be a certain way, the more freedom we have, the more aligned we are with God and all that is in the world that's coming into being from nothingness now and now and now and now and now and now. So we're more aligned. We have a lot more space, because when you're afraid of something, you attract and repel it at the same time. You're very, very much caught, and the worldview becomes very small. We all go here, like, as Chaya said, on a many times a day basis sometimes. But there's another way to experience things too, and that is from much more space. So paradoxically, the more we can let things be what they are and know that it's all, find a place inside of ourselves where it's all okay, the more we seem to not only be aligned, but more space we seem to have to co-create something new. And the universe just seems to trend more in our favor. And I know that it says in the Tanya, it's not the only place, but it says in the Tanya, the classical text of Chabad Hasidus by the Alter Rebbe, Shner Zalman of Leadi, it says that when a person comes to connect to God on such a deep level, meaning to the all there is, to the deepest reality, to the real truth, to the deeper dimensions that we're working to connect to in all of the learning that we do here. That's fundamentally what we're doing. The more a person connects to that ultimate reality and the love of that reality and the fact that we're eternal and the fact that even the physical is going to be eternal and in not too long a time, and whatever's lost is going to come back. So the more we can connect to that and just, that even more than anything else in the world, the more, so that we don't resist things that happen, the more things will eventually, it says, like, I'm not quoting exactly, but it says basically the more that we can align with whatever it is that we don't, that happens, loving God more than anything, or let's say connecting to the one more than anything, to the deepest truth more than anything, the more everything comes out as a yes, the more everything comes out as revealed good. And when we can, to the degree that we can do that, that's the degree to which there's no need for us to be challenged. There's no need for our boundaries to be pushed. There's no need for rectifications, because we went straight to the core. We see what's happening here. We see what this is, what it is, what we are, and we can find some. It's a process, but yeah, I'm not going to say more about it. It's just, there are two of us in this in this relationship, in this transformation. There's me and God, there's you and God. And the closer you get, which is a two-way street, not just a one-way street, the more you can see that the more you can, allow for the possibility that there's more to the picture, that everything underneath is good, or at least is going to be good. The more that gets reflected back to you in things coming out, in your prayers being answered, and life just occurring in a different way. So we're in the middle, we're in the birth process. So nobody can guarantee anybody any kind of outcome. I wish, hope, and pray, but we're moving toward that. So what we do, the stance we take, how much we can rectify, not just of our external behavior, of our inner traumas and our separation, our loneliness, our fear, our low self-worth, our, wired in feeling that something's terribly wrong with us, with it, them. So the more we can do the work to transmute that and up-level that so that it can become a channel of connection, the more divine love, even in physical things, in physical gifts and healings and wonders, flow in. Okay, so yeah, let's.
Thank you, Shifra. Thank you.
Turn over to you.
I wish I did not miss the beginning of what you said, but hopefully.
There's a request for you to speak a little bit louder.
Oh, okay. Is there anything you can do about my volume level?
Not from here, I don't think. David,
Let's
is
see
there?
if I can.
No.
Let me see.
You sound louder already.
I sound louder. I'm speaking louder, but I don't want to speak forcefully.
Right.
Let me see if I can raise.
I don't know if you could speak forcefully if you tried.
No, that's something I'm also capable of. Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Definitely.
Is this even better? Is that even better?
It's loud. Yeah.
Is it too loud? Is it too loud?
I don't think so. You speak. No. No.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. All right. So a minute. Let me just listen my ears a little bit. Okay. All right. So I'd like to. Is that too loud for anybody? Is that too loud for anybody? And no?
Complain now or forever hold your peace, people.
Anybody feel this? I'm speaking too loud? I raised my volume. Is that too loud for anybody?
I think it's good.
Okay, great. Great. So I'd like.
Ignore that. Should turn that off.
Yeah. So I'd like to invite all of you to be present for whatever it is that you're focusing on now as a gateway to more deeper understanding of who you really are and of your loving relationship with our beloved Creator. And even if you feel that you cannot trust, that's also needing love and acceptance right now. So I encourage you to continue to breathe. And this time take your breath into your body as almost like a caress of your entire physical being. Breathing as though beyond your lungs, throughout your body, and especially through parts of your body where you feel unsafe, constricted, doubtful, worried, angry, irritated. Wherever you find these emotions embedded in your body, breathe a caress of love to them, or if you can, through them, very gently, not beyond the level of acceptance that that part of you has. It's a very gentle and very aware process. Remember, it comes from noticing with great awareness of where you are in this moment. And I'm joining you. And you're always being joined by a Creator in this process. as your Creator breathes life and love through you every moment anew, bringing you back alive every moment anew. And if you feel undeserving, which we often do, notice a place in your body that represents your good spot. I'm borrowing from the work of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who taught that we all have a nekudat tova, a good place inside us, represents our goodness and our love and our commitment to bringing greater goodness to ourselves and to the world. I'm borrowing from Rabbi Nachman, who uses this on a spiritual plane. I'm borrowing it and bringing it down to the physical plane. Find a place in your body that represents the goodness that you are. And everyone has that. And everyone can find it. Where is that for you? Breathe through that place inside yourself. And allow it to be with acceptance. And breathe through it with a caress of love. And just notice without judgment. What's happening to that good spot inside you? As you continue to breathe the caress of love through it on your inhale and on your exhale. As you breathe through your good spot, your Creator is breathing through all of you with love and cherishing. Allow your good spot to expand as far as it needs to. And allow the goodness there to start circulating throughout your body. First to your heart, and then from your heart through your entire body, through your bloodstream, even to the tip of your nose. To every cell and every tissue, every organ, bringing life and goodness and circulating it throughout. And bringing that goodness gently, caressingly towards the parts of you that feel constricted and less than optimal, less than you. Now's a time to ingather those exiles of your being, the parts of you that you may feel ashamed of, the parts of you that you still have to work on, the parts of you that you feel are not good enough, not enough, not clear enough, not perfect enough, not heard, not seen, not acknowledged enough. Time to acknowledge them and accept those parts of you just the way they are. And breathe through them with acknowledgement for their pain, for acknowledgement for their exile within you, acknowledgement for their confusion and really not knowing how to do it the way you wanted to, the way you hoped to. Those younger parts of you, your inner children, that did the best they could with the tools at their disposal. The inner children that were hurt sometimes, and sometimes often, by other people who were doing the best with the tools at their disposal. And sometimes those tools were inadequate. Hold all those parts in your compassion and your love as you breathe through them. And allow the goodness to touch them, to caress them gently, to acknowledge them, to feel and observe what they feel and their experience with a deep recognition of the goodness of intention underneath every mistake. And underneath every pain and yearning and mistrust. Allow all that to be. The clarity and the confusion. The goodness and the yet to be rectified. The love and the mistrust. The serenity and the pain. The hope and the despair. God loves you through all of that. Continue to breathe and notice what happens as you caress all of your experience with that goodness that you found. And notice what happens. What do you notice? What do you observe? What's happening to your breath? How do you feel in your body? What emotions are coming up for you now? You may find that more pain and more confusion is coming up. Bring the same love and gentle caress of your breath to that place as well. And as you do that, know that your Creator is with you, breathing life through you and loving you just the way you are. Not only that, but your Creator is listening to you right now, seeing you for who you really are, beyond all the barriers and all the confusion and all the deaths. loving you the way you've always wanted to be loved by the people around you and by yourself. Acknowledging your pain the way you've always wanted to be acknowledged, the way you wanted to be acknowledged by yourself and by the people who loved you and love you today. God always knows what you're going through, loves you through that experience. When you're ready, share what's on your heart with God in this moment. Be heard, acknowledged, and observed. And as you do, share what's on your heart with God. Keep breathing through your body because this is going to be a healing process of deep love and acknowledgement as you breathe through your physical pain. God is there with you to carry you through this gateway, this threshold into the love that you are. Have a private conversation with God now, a private healing conversation with God. And I'll do the same. And this is going to be on behalf of all of you. Each and every one of you is an emissary of love and healing for yourself, primarily right now. That as you heal, you are healing the universe, the entire cosmos. So enter that healing, that cosmic personal healing process with God right now. As you breathe through your body. When you're ready, feel free to tap your toes and your fingers and come back to the here and now with all the love in your heart circulating through your body and integrating all parts of you within that love and that beingness that is you. Does anyone like to share?
So if there's anything you'd like to share with us, what you experienced, what you are experiencing, what you didn't experience,
Yeah.
anything at all, just type it into the chat. I'd really like everybody to be able to see what's in the chat.
What about if it's private?
Yeah, okay, so we're not set that way anyway. So if it's private, just write private and I won't read your name, or if you don't want me to read it at all, I won't. Okay, so I'm assuming if you don't say private, I can share your name, but I'll give you a minute to let me know that you want to be private before I share anything. If you have somebody sharing. Okay, meanwhile, I'll just read the comment. Wow, healing from childhood abandonment. I didn't expect this, came as a total surprise. That's really beautiful. I think things are as much as it's deep and sometimes it's work and multi-layered, sometimes you just hit that knot and something long-standing will open and shift. And you can't know. It's like in Shar Yichud, as we learned yesterday, when you're digging a well, you don't know where you're going to hit the water. You just know that if you keep digging, you will hit it. Okay, anybody else ready to share anything? Yes, exactly. I'm the same person. I don't be, whatever I want to just explain, we can go into another core issue and we probably should, but I want to explain how this works.
There's
If you're
another
looking,
one coming on. There's another one. Thank you. Feel such peace and the image I associate with Hashem. I can't see the rest.
the image I associate with Hashem as the king in the field held me to it's because people are sharing, it keeps disappearing. The image I have of Hashem as the king in the field held me to his breast. The using of the good place within to breathe into the not so good, not was so helpful. A deep sense of relaxation and a white light, which started out less intense in the middle of my forehead, which progressively got brighter and brighter. I went everywhere in my body and in my recent stressors. I feel we could have gone on to heal the world. That was beautiful. Thank you. I felt like there was a heartbeat, mine on my skin. I felt that sometimes in healing. That's really interesting. Someone told me it's the 0 point field. I don't know what you think of that. On my skin, my hands, my arms, covered in another element of love. The depth of where I was unheard. It's the same place where I was heard. 0 point. That's just what someone told me, that sense of pulse. Deep sense of safety. This is beautiful. Keep the comments coming, please. And I just want to take a moment and say that if you were working with Chaya one-to-one, which I invite you to check out the possibility of doing, if you have specific issues you want help with, it's worth the investment. It's so much opens up. If it's something that feels right for you. But part of the process when you're working one-to-one is that it's a two-way. Chaya is asking you to share what you're feeling, and if what you're feeling is fear, or what you're feeling is I'm feeling nothing, or if what you're feeling is anger or whatever, you can share that. So in a format like this, it's a little bit, people will be more reluctant to share things like that because we want to be the good students and tell the good things. But if you're feeling something like that, feel free to bring it up, because that's part of the process, bringing out the deep. We experience things in layers. Underneath the fear is the love. Underneath the love might be the anger. Underneath the anger is the judgment. Underneath the judgment is the freedom. It goes like that. So Esty says, thank you. I feel Hashem's love. I have a very heavy feeling all over now. I'm assuming that means heavy like relaxed, but if not, feel free to say. Unfortunately, My earphones stopped working, so I feel once again undeserving of healing, but trying to accept it as another step in process. So we have a replay. And this will be just as effective in the replay.
Yes.
Deep relaxation. I fell asleep for a few minutes of feeling that acceptance brings peace, that's for sure. This is very similar to internal family systems in the psychotherapy world. Probably, except that in my experience, it has a whole other dimension, because Chaya is actually connecting to Hashem's presence in the healing, and if you choose, so can you. So it's not just about the parts of you in your heart. There's that, but then there's the all there is that's underneath and behind that. I did feel anger and distrustful. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. So Chaya, what would you like to do? We have anger and distrustful. We have what few people expressed about not feeling like they can be themselves, or not knowing how to be themselves. Then we have a few people expressed feeling very stuck.
Yeah.
Is there where do you think we should go with this?
What we always do, it's always the same thing. Notice that stuck place inside.
Or the anger place?
Or the anger place.
Or the distrust place.
Or the distrust place. Just notice it. And notice it like you're noticing a child who's having a difficulty climbing those monkey bars or learning how to ride a bicycle. It's just a matter of empowerment and compassion. You empower the child to keep trying, and you have compassion for those skinned knees and those hurt feelings and that bruised ego of that child who's learning how to ride a bicycle without training wheels for the first time. It's not easy. So you're learning how to work through the thresholds of your emotions with God. And we do that by accepting them. I know it sounds paradoxical, and it is. Through acceptance, we lower our resistance level to what we're experiencing, and we allow it to be and to pass through us. An emotion that is accepted with compassion as you breathe through your body will release automatically within approximately 2 to 5 minutes. You can try that anytime. Accept an emotion as you breathe through your body. Within 2 to 5 minutes, it will shift. And it may shift to another uncomfortable emotion. And as you do the same with that uncomfortable emotion, accept as you breathe through your body. That emotion too will shift. And as these emotions shift, you are transforming consciously. And you are finding new gateways to your soul and to the opening of your heart. The opening of your heart to God and to higher consciousness. So we're combining the observation of our consciousness, even in our left brain, which registers moment by moment, frame by frame in this world. And we're combining that with right brain connection to the heart for acceptance and unconditional love that goes beyond the frame by frame of our left brain experience. It goes into the 0-point field, the field of all that is.
Can we go a little bit deeper with wherever people, most people are expressing feeling love, feeling calm. Marilyn says, when you were talking at the beginning, she felt the loss of when her mother died when she was 4, and now she feels peace, which is amazing. I mean, it's wonderful to hear that. And Donna said something that I'd really like to read. Deb says, I'm just feeling calm, just feeling love. Can you go even higher from there? So after I read this comment from Donna, we have a few more minutes. If it's okay with you, Chaya, I would like to just go deeper.
Yeah.
So just bringing up whatever's come up, let's just see what comes up next. And as you're describing it, it sounds like you're describing observing the old wiring, which
Yeah.
comes in the form of emotions and beliefs, observing it, and then observing it so deeply that you're one with it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then that automatically opens the wiring to a deeper layer and a deeper layer, and as you fall through the deeper layers, you're falling into your, to use my words, into your heart, into your soul, which is already connected. Is that more or less?
Precisely. And it can be described in so many infinite ways, but that would be one of the most profound ways of describing the experience.
So let me just read this from Donna before we go into let's spend the last few minutes of the call to go a little bit deeper. And just reminding everybody, as Hai said, it's a process. And I used to be completely not spiritual, and I was filled with, I don't even want to tell you how much of a sense of unworthiness, and did not believe in God, could not believe in God. And like, inside, as we clear away the layers, who we really are automatically shows up. So just, it's our choice whether we want to allow for that. You can't know it until you know it, but you can allow for it and then act on behalf of revealing it or not. That's really the choice that we have. Okay, when I started, Donna says, my heart felt like a stone. This is constricted by anger and frustration. Still tight, but much more open. Also, I realized something big when you were speaking about our tendency to believe that we're not worthy, and how that can be seen to be rooted in passages in Torah. I saw that those truths are actually holographic. This is brilliant. And that as we evolve, those truths become lighter. They're still true and applicable, but at a higher level. Yes, that is a deep secret of Torah and creation. I love that you said that. If we take the words at face value, we will use them as a crude weapon with which to beat ourselves. Maybe that is especially true for those of us who are more spiritually tuned. Yes, and if you when you drop through, or you are aware of the higher and higher, deeper and deeper vibrational planes of all of this, it's exactly holographic. It's like everything can be in the same space at once, and permeating all of it can be love and peace and joy, and then co-creation. Anyway, I don't want to get lost in my words. Let's go deeper, Chaya, for just a few minutes.
Okay. This time I'd like you to start breathing through your body with whatever's coming up. And thank you so much for that beautiful illumination, for that sharing from all of you. It helped all of us, inspired all of us. So as you breathe through your body, notice what's coming up now. What new gateways, what new thresholds are beckoning you? What new planes of healing can be accessed? Just notice where that's needed. And share it with God now as you breathe through your body with compassion and love. And know that this time, as you talk to God and share what's on your heart and breathe through your body, you are again an emissary of healing, not just for yourself, but first for yourself. It always has to start with you. Take the oxygen for yourself first, and then put it on your child. You are an emissary of healing of these layers and similar layers in the entire cosmos, from the beginning of time until the final redemption. So I encourage you, be that emissary of love, and you are empowered to engage in this healing process with God right now. As you breathe through your body and accept whatever is in your experience, just for the moment, long enough to allow yourself to relax any resistance to the love. And breathe the love throughout any constricted places in your consciousness and in your body, in your emotions and in your heart. On behalf of all of your lineage, on behalf of your offspring and future offspring, till the final redemption, when we will all be together as one. Share what's on your heart and begin a healing process with your beloved Creator this moment. When you are ready, feel free to tap your toes and your fingers and stretch a little bit. That's all of the love and the healing that you've experienced and will continue to experience infinitely into the future. It's being integrated within you and within all that is. Thank you to the healer of all flesh, our beloved Creator. Thank you all for being emissaries of prayer and consciousness. When you are ready, you may open your eyes and bring all that love and healing into the here and now, just the way you are.
Thank you, Chaya. Wow. We have just a few more minutes. I want to say a couple things while I'm inviting you guys to share your comments, insights, questions. When Chaya says, bring all that love, it doesn't mean that you're feeling only love. It means bring all the love that you have and allow for love that you don't yet experience to the pain, to the anger, if that's what's there. She said, as wherever you are. And that's so important. It's so important. And you can drop through levels sometimes really in really miraculous ways. And Deb, I think, asked earlier, can we go higher than this? Yes, you can always go higher.
It's infinite.
And yeah, when you reach one platform, it's like you reach it, it's like sometimes I think of it as elevator banks. You'll take the elevator up one flight, two flights, You get back in, you take it up another flight, and then you go all the way up to the 10th floor, which is the top of the elevator bank. But then from the 10th floor, you see there's another elevator bank that you never knew existed. You look out the window, wow, and then you start going to a whole other place. It's infinite, but it's infinite in an actual tangible way.
It
The
really is.
experience of moving into it, yeah, amazing, unexpected, very unexpected things can happen. But I just want to say to those of you who feel frustration or, we all do sometimes. What's coming to my mind is, I've asked so many people to work with me over the years, and some have volunteered because of the work that I've done with healers and whatever professionally. But and I think that's one of the reasons why. Without that work, there's no way. I've been thinking about it the last few days. There's no way that I would be able to be where I am and where I hope to continue to move, because there was a lot to transform, and there still is. And what's coming to me is that to share this is that around 7 years ago, I guess, 6 years ago, something like that, somebody who was doing some brain work, a friend of mine who came with a brain work machine, was doing a session with me, and she said to me, it's as if you have an evil older sister inside of you, and every time you accomplish something good, she starts to claw your face so that you back off and don't do any more, so that you feel like you're a total failure. And I realized it was true, and it was controlling my life. So that's just one experience and insight of, I can't even tell you how many. But don't be discouraged. I mean, you can be discouraged, and then bring love to it. Take it into session. Whatever it is, take into session. But because it's really in the knowing, the embracing, and the, as Chaya put it more beautifully years ago than I've ever seen it put, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, the world was covered, and the human heart and soul were covered with the veil of shame. We're on one side of that veil hiding, and God is on the other side. So when we acknowledge the shame, the anger, the pain with love, and then I would say, based on what I learned from Chaya, invite Hashem, invite God to our side of the veil, to be in that troubled experience with us, to shine the love with us, to feel the pain with us. It is ultimately powerful. And it's a restoration of oneness. And it's a rectification for the sin of the tree of knowledge. You don't have to go through all the details nearly to the same degree when you go to the core. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much, Chaya. There are a bunch of comments. And let me just go through a few of them. Sharon says, what was profound for me is the extreme desire to end human suffering. I love that. I feel as though my soul feels the heaviness of all human suffering. So that's a cosmic consciousness. That's wonderful. That's what's inside all of us when we get open to it. Edna, emissaries of love and consciousness. Sharon, the second round was wonderful. Thank you. I'm so glad. Marilyn, it's amazing how we can experience so much in so little time. Feeling love, love, love went from deep sense of loneliness, sadness, depression to this love, peace, and safety. Marilyn, I'm going to throw out to you, where was that love, peace, and safety? I'll look forward to seeing what you type. Deb, love that infinite and tangible way. Thank you so much, both of you. Marilyn, know that I can experience this at any time through breathing. Why do we forget? Okay, she knows. Why do we forget? Chaya, why do we forget?
So that we can rediscover anew every moment.
And what's the point of that? What's the actual profit in that?
The process is of a spiral, an upward spiral, and perhaps the elevator bank is a very good analogy. We stop at plateaus, but then when we're ready to spiral up some more, we will have another challenge. And each challenge need not be suffering. It can just be a reminder that there's something even better.
Yes, well said. There's a pattern of creation. If I can bless everyone here and all of humanity and myself with one blessing in this regard, it's that we can move out of the cycle of feel better, feel worse, feel peace, feel horrible, and start to actually experience new things. We will still feel better and worse, but it can be in a new way. It can be in that lighter holographic way, level after level. It doesn't have, now and then you can crash, maybe not, but it seems to go with the territory so far of being human, although that's changing, so who knows. But we don't have to keep going back and forth in the same range. We don't have to forget and then remember. What we want to do is shift our consciousness deeper, connect to potential deeper, connect to a new morphic field deeper, so that our experiences are different. We're not repeating the past anymore. We're cycling through similar patterns in different dimensions. And that makes all the difference. Thank you, Chaya. This has been great. The white light came back and raced down over my arms, making my hands tingle and feel warm and radiant. This procrastination feels like it's receded, and a sense of encouragement has replaced that spot. Beautiful. Thank you for such a special session. Shifra, when I search within, it's there deeply inside. Good, Marilyn. Remember that. Write that down. And by the way, we have replays. So if you don't know how to get there on you do not have to remember. And I guess I want to say this also. Rather than remember we remember who we are as we move into a space of clarity and connection. But it's not the kind of remembering from the past. It's more like an awakening or a reconnection. So you don't need to remember what you experienced here and try to recapture it. You're just in the energy of the past. You're in a memory in your left brain, and that's already going to bring with it frustration and something not real. What you want to do is reconnect to the process that drew you in, and it can happen on an even deeper level in the present, in the living present. And you can use the recording for that purpose, as well as any of the matrix recordings or any of the classes. The text space, it's the same thing. We're dropping levels of consciousness. You won't see it and feel it until you do. And then it's going to be all over. And the next time you learn the same material, it's going to be in a different dimension. Right, Chaya?
Exactly. I want to add one more. I want to add one more thing.
Yes, please.
As you did this exercise, I was supporting you in a certain way that I didn't explain it because I didn't have enough time. We only had whatever time we needed. But there are much deeper levels of this about how I support you through the work you do. And I can teach you how to do that for yourself. But I couldn't explain all of that now. But I can give you a hint. It has to do with being so present for the moment that you slip between the frames of space-time into eternity. And Shifra, you alluded to that. And how to do that is once you get, and this is just a pointer for the future, and you do this exercise, once you get to a place of serenity, and you will over time as you keep doing it, this cycle and spiral through many, many discomforts, you will come to serenity and to love. When you reach that place, you can help others do the same. And how you do that is you're present for them from your place of love and serenity. First, you have to work on yourself. You can't come unprepared. Or an acceptance of anything that's not serene inside yourself, because that also happens. I came a little bit nervous to this meeting, so I had to work with that too. But then once you find that serenity spot and that love spot inside yourself, and it's circulating well through you, then you're in a position to slip between the frames of space-time into infinity, and be in that space with Hashem, with your beloved Creator, on behalf of everyone in everyone you encounter.
Amen. Kenyi Ratzon.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something else?
There's more to it, but it takes time to learn these skills. I thank you so much for being here with us and being emissaries of consciousness and love for the entire cosmos, starting with yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaya. I just want to add one last thing. We're over time, but in case somebody's wondering why this is part of Walls into Doorways, we're looking at our walls and we're turning them into doorways. And that's why I'm categorizing this particular call under that. It's also healing, of course, but it's also transformation. But that's basically the key of a shifting, that the walls become doorways to entirely new experiences that we could not have foreseen because they were on the other side of a wall. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, everybody. Mwah. See you on Facebook. See you next week. Bye, Chaya. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shifra. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your presence here. And thank you, Hashem, our beloved Creator, for bringing us together. Thank you.